Perry, frost this time of year? Come on.
Yeah, I don't want to take any blame for it. Don't blame me. I know it's tough. It's been kind of a cool, wet start to the spring, and this is definitely not something we're looking forward to.
Okay, so what plants do we need to protect from the frost?
Well, simply put, anything that's very young will be more tender. So if you've recently planted your garden, that's going to be the trickier part. If you have some, herbs or things you planted in some containers that you can bring inside, that's probably the easiest thing and a good idea to do. Obviously, the bigger challenge becomes when we've planted seeds in our garden, and if we have larger gardens, that's going to be kind of the trickier part outdoors, because obviously you're not going to, lift up a big garden and walk it into the living room.
So what is the best way to protect those more tender items that you have planted?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, first of all, if it continues to rain, that'll be helpful. I know we've been getting some rain, a bit of showers. That'll help. Obviously, the temperature's getting down, it is a possibility. If there's a way to cover it in some way, even with a tarp, so that it's just protected, almost create a mini greenhouse. You don't have to go too crazy with it. I mean, obviously, in a larger garden space, it's not going to be realistic to be able to cover a lot of the plants. So if you have some younger ones, you can try and do some, covering with tarps, and maybe use like a 5-gallon pail and turn it upside down just to kind of hold the tarp off the plants themselves, so you're not damaging them. Plants are resilient, and so they'll be able to handle a little bit of it. But again, it's just sort of those tender, fresh shoots that are going to be more susceptible to frost damage than some of the other plants. Things in your hanging baskets, if you have like, pansies, pansies are actually quite frost tolerant, so those won't be a concern at all. It's going to be more about sort of that, garden vegetables, or maybe if you have some tomato plants in a pot, bring those inside for the night, or, basil or whatever that you can bring in for sure.
Are there any plants that benefit from frost?
Well, generally speaking, at this time of year, it's not a good thing. And so, the idea is if we can protect it from the frost, again, we're sort of getting to that borderline temperature. There's a high likelihood if the moisture stays, we won't get the frost. But generally speaking, you don't have to worry about larger trees or shrubs, perennials that have, grown year after year. They're going to be much more resilient, have more established root systems, and be able to handle the colder temperatures with very minimal damage. And so that's less of a concern. But trying to find a good thing out of this, I wouldn't say it's a good thing in general, for sure, for plants.
Yeah. Speaking of not good things, it seems like this year, it has been really wet. It has been really windy. I have lost 2, maybe 3 tomato plants because of the wind, just my own fault. But, from your perspective, like when it comes to growing in Alberta, how do you describe the conditions we've seen so far?
Yeah, I think it has been a bit of a challenging start to the spring. Obviously, we haven't had the warmer temperatures that are going to help facilitate growth. And like you mentioned, the wind, we've had some days of, like 60K winds. And again, more established plants, wind can actually help them grow in ways that, plants will adapt, and they'll, larger trees will produce stronger wood against the stress that wind provides. But like you mentioned with tomato plants, again, they're newer, younger, fresher plants. And so it has been a challenge. Lots of rain, which is good. We need the moisture in the ground. It was kind of a dry winter, as we all know, and other things that it can benefit, like reducing the danger of forest fires and stuff. We'll take that all day. There's no question with sort of that cool start, it's impacted the ability for plants to grow, and this frost is just sort of one more dagger that we really don't need at this time of year. That being said, if we can get through it, I think we're going to be on the brighter side of things as we move through the summer. And there's still lots of time left. If we get through, this whole cold snap here, that, we'll still be able to harvest, things in due course as the temperatures start to warm up like we know they will.
Yeah. And Perry, is it, okay, let's say that all of my tomato plants die, all of my seeds no longer grow, not just because I don't have a green thumb. Is it too late to replant and start over again?
Well, you can plant, and it depends on the vegetable. Like, typically speaking, there are some vegetables that, or fruits that are really quite short in terms of, like radishes are a great one. They take, 3 to 4 weeks, and then you harvest them. So that would be an obvious one. Things like herbs and stuff can be 90 to 120 days. And so now we're getting on the outside end, because that's going to take us well into September. And so that's, now you're getting into real frost territory. And so the likelihood of you being able to harvest them. But the advantage you can have at this time of year is they're still going to be available in the garden center, vegetables that have already been planted. So you don't have to start from scratch or from seed in this case. So just buy an established plant, and that'll put you ahead of the game, so that maybe you put in some work and you're going to lose that work, but you won't lose the season if you go with a plant that's already been established and is growing, for a few weeks here or even a couple months already.
Yeah. Okay, that is reassuring. Hopefully the frost doesn't continue for too long and we can have a good harvest season. Perry, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
All right, Nancy, it's always great to see you.